Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you today to this new live session where we are going to talk about a fascinating topic, which is the histology of the skin. So stay with me and let us concentrate so that we may understand the concept behind the histology of the skin. So basically, this topic is a quite fascinating topic. We are going to start by looking at the layers of the skin and its components, and we're also going to describe the types of cells that are found in the particular layers of the skin, and also we are going to look at other structures and also correlation structures. I mean other glands that are found in the skin. So the skin, basically, it is not just the largest organ of the body, it is also a vital organ that also helps us in terms of defense against pathogens and also other microorganisms. So we know how the skin is. So just taking a quick diagram, try to draw the layers of the skin. So we're going to have the first layer of the skin, then second layer of the skin, then we're going to have the last layer. So keeping in mind that this is our skin, then here we're going to have the hair on top. The first layer, this layer that we're going to have here, this is what we call the epidermis. This is the epidermis layer. Then this is going to be our dermis. Then this down here, it is going to be another layer, which is known as the hypodermis, of which this hypodermis is also referred to as the subcutaneous layer. The subcutaneous layer. So these are the layers of the skin that we are going to try to dig deep into them, and also find out more, finding out more about these layers of the skin, and what they have and their functions. So the skin, basically, as we know, it is the largest organ of the body, and it constitutes about 16% of the total body weight. This telling us that if a person weighs about 70 kg, that is your weight, it means that 16% of this weight, it is actually the weight of the skin. That's fascinating. So it consists about 16% of the total body weight. And this same skin that we are talking about, as we have heard from the introduction, it is composed of two main layers. So the two main layers of the skin, it is the epidermis and the dermis, but it also has another extra layer which they refer to as the hypodermis. So it has got three layers, but the two main layers that it has, it is the epidermis and the dermis. So what we have to know before we dig deep into these layers of the skin is that the epidermis, as we can see, being the outermost layer, it is the one that is having derivatives like the hair that we are seeing here, the hair, the nails also, if you talk about your fingers, and so on and so forth. So the same epidermis layer, or the same skin, it consists of glands, and these glands, they are known as the sweat glands and also the sebaceous glands. These are the glands that we are going to find in the skin. We'll talk about them as well. So the epidermis is known to be the outermost layer, just like the way we can see from the orientation of these layers. And the skin, it is a receptor organ. This is because the skin has a lot of receptors which helps us to interact with different environmental stimuli. For you to be able to know that someone has touched you, it is because the skin has got receptors that tends to detect that stimuli, and mostly this stimuli is referred to as tactile stimuli, whereby if someone touches you, you'll be able to feel it, and if there is change in temperature, you'll be able to feel it, and if any kind of pressure is applied onto your skin, you'll be able to feel it. That's because the skin has got receptors that helps us to interact with environment as well, which we are referring to as environmental stimuli. So the skin's layer, starting with the epidermis, we are going to start with the epidermis, which is the outermost layer. So the epidermis layer, which is this layer that we are seeing here, it is the outermost layer of the skin. It is the layer that we are able to see. We can say superficial part of the skin. Superficially, this is just like the surface of the skin. So it is going to be the outermost layer of the skin, or it is the outermost layer of the skin, and it consists of an epithelium that is known as stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. This is the epithelium that the outermost layer of the skin, which is the epidermis, is having. And also, just like the way we knew, we got from the introduction, this epidermis, it acts as a protective barrier against mechanical injuries as well as the invading of pathogens because of how the cells are arranged. And also, you're going to find that the same skin has got immune cells that can trigger immune response against the pathogen. So it helps in those particular areas, and it helps in mechanical injury because of the arrangement that we are going to see in the layers as we go deep in. So the epidermis actually has got 5 layers. So one thing that you have to know is that the body and the thickness of the skin isn't quite the same on each particular body. You're going to body part. You're going to find that there is a body part where you're going to find that the skin is quite thick, and a body part where you're going to find that the skin is quite thin. So, like for example, when you look at the palm of your hands, the skin which is in the palm of your hands, the thickness isn't the same as the skin which is on any other part of your body. Let's say this side of the hand, or your arm or your forearm. It is not going to be the same. That is because of the layers of the skin. So you're going to find that there are layers, that there is an extra layer which is in the palm of your hand, which is not existing here, and we are going to talk about it. So the epidermis actually consists of 5 main layers. Generally speaking, without specifying to which part of the body, it consists of 5 main layers. So we have got the first layer, which is the stratum basal. So in this context here, stratum basically means layer. So you can also say the basal layer or stratum basal. Then we are also going to have stratum spinosum. Then we are also going to have stratum granulosum. Then you're also going to have stratum lucidum. Then the fifth one, which is the fifth layer, we are going to have stratum corneum. So these are the layers that we are going to find specifically on the epidermis. So the epidermis consists of these 5 major layers. Generally speaking, it consists of these 5 many layers. So now let's try to look at the first layer, which is the stratum basal, or the basal layer. So this first layer of the skin, that's like the way we have the first layer of the epidermis, it is the deepest layer amongst the 5 layers of the skin. So meaning that the way we have been arranged them, moving from the stratum basal or the basal layer going down like this, we are moving from the deepest going to the outermost, or the most superficial, or the superficial layer of the skin. Yeah. So starting with the stratum basal. So the stratum basal, or the basal layer, it is the deepest layer amongst the 5 layers, just like the way we have seen from the arrangement. And we are going to know that this stratum basal is also known as the stratum germinativum, or the germinativum layer. This is because it is the one that consists of cells that undergoes division, and also that are involved in the regeneration of the epidermis. So we have to know that the skin, it renews itself. The cells of the skin are not the same like they were when you were born. No, they renew themselves. You're going to find that about 28 to 30 days, after about 28 to 30 days, these cells of the skin, they tend to renew themselves. So now the renewal of these cells, it is due to the cells that are found in the basal layer. These cells, they undergo division, which is continuous cell division, so that they can bring about the regeneration of the epidermis, and basically the renewal of the cells of the skin. So in this basal layer, we are going to find that we have cells that are going to be in in larger amounts, which are going to be called the keratinocytes. So these keratinocytes, so these cells are the ones that are involved in the production of a protein that is known as keratin protein. So this is a very, very important protein because it helps in the formation of hair, nails, and also other components that are found on the skin, but specifically most of them it is hair and the nails. That's why you must sometimes you can wonder, why is it that when you cut your nail still grow back? It is because the keratinocytes are initiating the process of keratinization, whereby they are producing this protein that is known as keratin, which is facilitating, or which is being used in the formation of the nails and the hair. And the same stratum basal layer, it consists of a single layer of cuboidal and columnar cells. Cuboidal and columnar cells. And apart from that, the stratum basal, or the basal layer, contains other types of cells, which we can say the melanocytes. So it consists of melanocytes as well as the Meckel cells. The Meckel cells. So these two types of cells, they are found in the stratum basal, which is the deepest layer of the epidermis, the melanocytes and the Meckel cells. So let's try to talk about the melanocyte. Let's try to know more about what these melanocytes are and where they are found, or where they are found we know actually. So what they are, their function, and so on and so forth. So the melanocytes, so just from the term melanocytes, we are going to find that these cells are the ones that are involved in the process of producing a pigment that is responsible for your skin color, the hair color, as well as your eye color. So this pigment is known as melanin. Yeah, melanin. So you're going to find that there are those people who are dark in complexion, those who are light in complexion, those people who have got dark hair, brown, and the eye color also tends to differ genetically as we speak. So it is because of this pigment. So this pigment known as melanin, it is produced by the same melanocyte cells that are found in the basal layer of the epidermis, which is the deepest layer. So these melanocytes, they generate this melanin, or they form this melanin from an amino acid which is known as tyrosine. So this tyrosine is an amino acid. So this amino acid is very, very essential in the formation of melanin. So there is an enzyme in this layer where these melanocytes are found. This enzyme is known as tyrosinase. So this enzyme is the one that facilitates the formation of melanin from an amino acid which is tyrosine. That's why you're going to find that in a condition where someone gets to be born as an albino, a condition that we call albinism, you're going to find that that particular person will be lacking this pigment to give the skin color. So this is because there is absence of an enzyme which is facilitating the formation of melanin from this amino acid, and this enzyme, it is tyrosinase. We know that this enzyme, it is protein in nature. So we're going to find that there can be a mutation in the gene, in the DNA, that is involved in coding for proteins that are involved in the formation of this enzyme. So we're going to find that absence of those proteins will lead to the absence of the particular enzyme, and when an enzyme is not there, it is not going to facilitate the formation of melanin from tyrosine. As a result, someone will be born as an albino. So this is one of the clinical relevance that we can take from these particular cells. So basically, this melanin, it is in types. It is not just like melanin, but it has got too many types. So we have got a type of melanin that is called eumelanin and pheomelanin. Yeah, I like pronouncing that, pheomelanin. Yeah, so these two types of melanin, they have got their specific areas where they are found. So you are going to find that this one, it is the one which is involved in, rather let me just say, it is a dark brown pigment that is produced by the melanocytes. And also this pheomelanin, it is a pigment that is found in red hair. So you are going to find that those people with red hair, they are going to be having this pigment. it is also melanin produced by the melanocyte. Okay. Apart from that, we can also talk about the other cells that we said they are found in the basal layer, which are the Meckel cells. Okay, so these Meckel cells are also known as mechanoreceptors. They are also known as mechanoreceptors. These are specialized sensory cells that are found in the basal layer. This also gives us an idea, or rather, it reminds us from the concept that we mentioned that the skin, it is actually an organ receptor. It has got receptors that helps us to interact with the environmental stimuli. So these cells are the ones that are involved in that somatosensory system. So they help you to detect the touch, the pressure, as well as the texture of something. For you to feel that this is smooth, or this is rough, or this is like that, it is because of the presence of these cells. That's why they are known as mechanoreceptors. They are involved in the detecting of different types of stimuli, including the texture, as well as the pressure that is being exerted on your skin, even the light touch. If just someone touches with with light pressure, you're going to find that you feel it to say someone has touched you. Why? Because these cells are present. So if you have any question, please you're free to ask. Okay, so having looked at these cells, we are also going to look at the second layer of the skin, which is known as spinosum layer, or the stratum spinosum, or stratum spinosum, or spinosum layer. So basically, this spinosum layer, it is the second deepest layer. So after, you're going to find that after we get to have our basal layer here, the one that follows up, it is going to be the spinosum layer. So now that's where we are. So now this spinosum layer, knowing that it is the second deepest layer of the epidermis, it is also called the precocell layer. This is because when you get to view your skin under microscope, you're going to find that the cells that are under this layer, they are going to be appearing like spiny or prickle-like cells that are going to be like sharp projections, something like sharp projections. So due to the appearance of cells in that layer under microscope, they are now this layer is now referred to as a precocell layer. That is because of the appearance of the same cells that are found under this layer in that manner when they are viewed under the microscope. That's why it is referred to as the precocell layer. So this layer, it consists of a same protein that was produced by the keratinocyte, which is known as keratin. So now this keratin protein, it connects to the same spine projections that are like the same cells that appears in a spine projection. Like it connects to these cells by the desmosome junctions. So these desmosome are the one that facilitates the connection of these proteins, filamentous proteins that are formed from keratin. So when these filamentous protein, they join with these cells, they are going to form what we call tonal filaments. They form what we call the tonal filaments. This tonal filament, it helps, or rather it helps to maintain the cohesion amongst the cells. That force that makes the cells to stay together. It will help them to stay together like that. So meaning it is maintaining the cohesion amongst the cells. It also helps to resist the effect of abrasion. Yeah. It helps to resist the effect of abrasion, of which you know that abrasion is just the superficial injury to the skin. So if you have a question, you can ask. Okay, so we are going to find out this spinosum layer, it consists of special type of cells that is known as the Langerhans cells. The Langerhans cells. Yeah, like this. The Langerhans cells. Yeah, so this is also another type of cell that is found in the epidermis, specifically in the spinosum layer, which is the second deepest layer. So these cells, you're going to find that it represents about 2 to 8% of the epidermis, of the cells that are found in the epidermis or of the epidermal cells. So this tells us that all the cells that are found in the epidermis, about 2 to 8% of them are the Langerhans cells. So now what is so special about these Langerhans cells? So these Langerhans cells, you find that they are also known as antigen presenting cells. Antigen presenting cells. This is because the Langerhans cells have got a special ability of presenting a molecule that is known as an antigen to white blood cells or to immune cells. So this antigen molecule, for example, let's say you are having a bacterial cell that is in your system, in your body. These bacterial cells gets to have certain type of protein that is found on each surface. These proteins are known as antigen. So these Langerhans cells, they have the ability to present these antigens to immune cells. So they get this antigen presented to the present immune cell, for example the T lymphocytes. When they present it there, they are going to give these T lymphocytes to say, we have an intruder who is not supposed to be found here. When you see any presentation of this kind of a protein on a cell, kill that cell or engulf that cell or phagocytose that cell, because it is not supposed to be found here. That's why they are also involved in immune response. So that's why they are called antigen presenting cells, because they are capable of that particular reaction or process. They are also, one thing that you have to know is that they are also made from the bone marrow, and they are capable of binding and processing the same information that we are from talking about, and the presentation of antigen to T lymphocytes. Upon knowing that, we can go to the third layer of the skin. So the third layer of the skin, it is known as stratum granulosum, or the granulosum layer. Granulosum layer. So let's now look at this layer. What is so special about this layer that it has to be part of the layers of the epidermis? So the granulosum layer, it is the third layer of the epidermis. So now one thing that you have to know about this particular layer, that it is going to mark the transition point between the living cells and the dead cells. When I say dead cells, it doesn't mean that the cells that are going to be followed after this are going to be all completely dead, but most or the majority of these cells are going to be dead. So like we know that we had 5 layers of this the epidermis. We had got the basal layer, then followed by the spinosum layer, then now we are on the granulosum layer. So this layer here will mark now the transition point, whereby this side, that's where we see most of the cells that were living cells. They were undergoing cell division, they are undergoing keratinization, formation of that particular important protein. Then the cells that starts following this side now, majority, I can say maybe 90% of them, they are going to be dead cells. So this layer, it is the one that marks now the transition point. And one thing that you also have to know is that this layer has got about 3 to 5 layers of cells that are known as keratinocyte. So one thing that you have to know about this keratinocyte, we keep on mentioning is that the keratinocytes are found almost on every layer of the skin. But you're going to find that there are some layers where they are found in higher concentration or in higher amount, and some layers where they are going to be found in lower amount. So obviously you know that from where they are being formed, like from these layers, they are going to be found in higher amount, and as they start increasing, those that are going to be viable, they are going to be in less amount. By viable, I mean those that are going to be active and function. Yeah. So one thing that you also, another thing that you have to know about this particular granulosum layer is that this layer consists of the same layer of keratinocyte, which is going to be filled with granules. These granules that is going to fill this keratinocyte they are known as keratohyalin granules as well as lamellar granules. So we have the lamellar granules and keratohyalin. Yeah, you see it. Yeah. So these granules are found amongst the same 3 to 5 layers of the keratinocyte that are found in the granulosum here. So these layers, you are going to find these granules rather, like the lamellar granules. The lamellar granules, they release a lipid material. So these granules, they release a lipid material that forms an hydrophobic barrier. This hydrophobic barrier is basically just for waterproofing. It helps to prevent water loss from the skin. So that is one of the function of these lamellar granules. So just to go through to have a quick recap on the granulosum layer, we know that it is the third layer of the epidermis, and it marks the transition point between the living and the dead cells, and it also has about 3 to 5 layers of the keratinocyte that is filled with these granules, of which we say that the lamellar granules releases a lipid material or a lipid form like material which forms an hydrophobic barrier that helps in waterproofing the skin, preventing the water loss from the skin. Then going to the fourth layer of the skin, the fourth layer of the skin is known as, which is going to be now this layer. So this fourth layer of the skin is known as the lucidum layer. Lucidum layer. So this lucidum layer, it is going to be a layer that is also known as a clear layer or a translucent layer of the epidermis. It is found mostly on the thick skins. So from the introduction of the video, I told you that the thickness of the skin actually tends to differ. You're going to find that the thickness of the skin here is not going to be the same as this side. Why? It is because there are certain layers that are here. There is a layer which is here, which is not found on the skin, which is on the other side. So this particular layer, it is the lucidum layer. So this lucidum layer, it is only found in thick skins like the palm of the hand and also the sole of the foot. It tends to add an extra protective mechanism, or rather, let me just say, it prevents damage to the skin that is found here, as well as the sole of the foot. So we are going to find that this stratum lucidum or the lucidum layer consists of dead keratinocyte cells. So the cells that are going to be found in this fourth layer of the epidermis, these are going to be dead keratinocyte cells. Like I mentioned, every layer of the epidermis consists of these cells that are known as keratinocytes. But the amount in which they are found in terms of the viable cells, of which are the keratinocyte, differs. Yeah. Then the fourth, or rather the fifth layer, which is this one now that you are going to look at, the stratum corneum. So this stratum corneum, it consists of the cells that are known as the corneocytes. That's why we are getting the name corneum. It consists of the cells that are known as the corneocytes. So this is going to be the outermost layer of the epidermis, the layer that we are now able to see. That is going to be now the outermost layer. So this layer, it is made up of about 15 to 20 layers of these dead keratinocytes. So it is going to have fully packed keratinocytes that are going to be dead. So the layers of the same dead keratinocyte, they are about 15 to 20 layers. So it provides the skin's primary protective barrier, because that is the one that we can be able to see. In as much as the skin looks good like this, the superficial layer of the skin, which is the outermost layer of the skin, which is this stratum corneum, it consists of dead cells. And as I earlier mentioned, you're going to find out that these cells are being dead. After 28 to 30 days, the skin will renew itself, because in the first layer, which is the basal layer, there is continuous cell division to produce new cells that are going to be replacing the dead cells. So this layer of the skin, which is the stratum corneum, it is very thin, and eventually the cells under the same layer, they undergo a process that is known as desquamation. So desquamation is just a process where these cells are eventually shedding off. They are just shedding off like that. Yeah, so having talked about these layers, the same last layer, which is the stratum corneum, it marks the end of the layers of the epidermis. So just to have a quick recap, the epidermis has got 5 layers. We have got the basal layer, where we saw cell division mostly takes place there, as well as the cells that are meant to replace the dying cells are being found there. Then the formation of keratin, which is a very, very important protein that aids in the synthesis of, or in the formation of hair, or as well as nails. It is present there. And the basal layer consists of 2 types of cells, of which is said we are going to find the Langerhans cells there and the Meckel cells there. And we talked about the Langerhans cells as well as the Meckel cells. Then the other layer, which is the second deepest layer, it is the spinosum, and followed by the granulosum, as well as the lucidum, then the corneum. So these are the 5 layers of the skin. You encounter a question talking about highlighting the layers of the epidermis. These are the layers that you are going to talk about. The most important points has been highlighted, and you are going to see them in your notes as we share. So this now takes us to the second layer of the skin. So we said that the skin has got too many layers, and there's also an extra layer that is considered to be part of the layers of the skin, which is said the hypodermis. But the too many layers, it is the epidermis and the dermis. So we are done with the epidermis. Now we go to the dermis. So the dermis, this layer of the dermis consists of connective tissue, which is known as the loose connective tissue, and it is a thick connective tissue layer that is found beneath the epidermis. So they are just saying that this dermis layer, it is just found beneath the epidermis. The second after the epidermis, you are going to find the dermis, like the way we saw from the diagram that we had. We had the epidermis, then after the epidermis is this, the dermis. So this dermis is just found beneath the epidermis. Then it is involved in the provision of strength, elasticity, as well as support to the skin. Then the other thing that you have to know about the dermis is that the dermis is quite vascularized and innervated. By vascularized, I mean that we are going to find that it is going to have the presence of vessels, like the capillaries, that are going to be involved in efficient blood perfusion to the extremities parts of the skin, and those small layers of the skin, because we know that in as much as the skin is having some dead cells in certain layers, there are layers that are having viable cells, active cells. So in those active cells, they will need obviously oxygen and other nutrients. So the epidermis covers that. It consists of vessels that helps in the provision of those nutrients as well as oxygen. So it is vascularized, and it is also innervated. It is innervated, meaning that there are some nerve supplies that are found in that particular area, which is the dermis. So the dermis is composed of, as we talked about, it is composed of dense, irregular connective tissue with collagen and elastic fibers. These elastic fibers are the one that enables your skin to be a bit elastic. Like if you pull your skin like this, you find that your skin will be looking like it is elastic, like it's because of the presence of these elastic fibers. So the dermis, it also has got layers, but the layers of the dermis, they are just 2. Yeah, they are not going to give us a hard time to know them. They are just like 2 of them. So we have the first layer, which is known as the papillary layer, and then we also have the reticular layer. So the papillary layer, it is the superficial layer, meaning that it is on top, like it is going to be the first layer of the dermis, and then the reticular layer will follow the papillary layer. So it is going to be superficial to the reticular layer, and then the reticular layer, it is deep to the papillary layer. So the papillary layer of the dermis, as we have heard, it is superficial, and it has got what we call the dermal papillae. These dermopapillae are like finger projections that contributes to the formation of what we call the epidermal ridges. And these structures, the epidermal ridges, finger-like projection, which are the dermopapillae, they are actually microscopic, but in some ways they contribute to what we see, that prints on your skin. Yeah, those prints on your skin, like the same fingerprints and so on and so forth, they contribute to the formation of that. So the papillary layer, it provides nutrition to the epidermis because of the same vascularization that we talked about, that the dermis, it is vascularized. It has got the presence of those small blood vessels, capillaries, that brings about supply of nutrients to that particular body tissue, which is the layer of the skin that we are talking about. Then the other thing that you have to know about the papillary layer before we go to the reticular layer is that it also houses sensory receptors. So we know sensory receptors. These are receptors that are involved in sensing stimuli. Like the way we talked about that the skin, it is a sensory organ because it has got receptors that enables one to interact with environmental stimuli. So those receptors are going to be housed, or they are going to be found, some of them, in the dermis, and they help in sensation and also in thermoregulation, regulation of your body temperature, because they will sense to say, now it's hot, it's time to regulate the temperature, now it's cold. Yeah. Then the other layer that we can talk about is the reticular layer. So the reticular layer, it is composed of the dense irregular connective tissue, and this layer, it is the one that is responsible for housing structures like the sweat glands, the sebaceous glands, and some other blood vessels, and also some receptors. These receptors are known as the Pacinian receptors, or Pacinian corpuscles. These Pacinian corpuscles are just pressure receptors. These are receptors that tends to detect the pressure that is exerted on your skin. If someone holds you with that much pressure, these they will detect to say, oh, there is pressure here, then they will send signals. Then the reticular layer, they have got a special type of small muscles that are known as arrector pili muscles. The arrector pili muscles. These muscles are the ones that are responsible for the formation of goosebumps. You know goosebumps, like when you feel cold. Yeah, those bumps that are formed on your skin just because of the presence of this muscle, which is arrector pili muscle. Yeah, like maybe let's say you are standing in front of your crush and you're feeling shy to propose, and those goosebumps will just come up. It is because the presence of these arrector muscles are the ones that are responsible for that reaction that you're having on your skin. Then, having talked about the dermis, we also mentioned that apart from knowing that these are the main layers of the skin, there's also another extra layer that we should know. This layer, it is hypodermis. So this hypodermis is also known as the subcutaneous layer. This layer, it consists of adipose tissue, or the fat tissue, and this fat tissue contains cells that are known as fat cells or adipocytes. So this hypodermis layer, it is a layer that serves as a connection between the skin and the underlying structures. So for you to be able to move your skin, or rather for you to be able to make your skin sliding like this, because of the presence of this hypodermis, which is the subcutaneous layer, it facilitates the sliding over of the skin onto the underlying structures. Yeah, like that. That's why it is made up of loose connective tissue, not like the dense irregular connective tissue for these other layers, but for this one it is loose connective tissue. and it plays a very important role when it comes to shock absorbing, and also plays an important role in body insulation because of the presence of the same fat. And as we are going to talk about thermogenesis in biochemistry, you understand this more, and also for energy storage, because we know that energy can also be stored in form of fats. And you are going to understand this concept very, very much well when you start looking at the formation of energy, which is the body metabolic processes in biochemistry, how energy is formed, stored, and mechanisms in which the same energy is stored and formed. Yeah, so looking at the hypodermis and having talked about this marks at the end of the layers of the skin. But one other thing that you also have to know is that why not finding out the glands that the skin has? So we talked about two glands. We said the sebaceous glands as well as the sweat glands. So the sebaceous glands, they are involved in the secretion of an oily substance that is known as sebum. So this sebum, it is an oily substance that is secreted by these glands. You're going to find that when you are walking in the sun, just oily and oily. So the same oily material or substance that is found on your skin when you're walking, let's say, in the sun, that is what we call the sebum. So that oily substance is secreted by the glands that are known as the sebaceous gland. It helps you to make your skin look fresh, and also it prevents the loss of water from the skin so that it does not go dry, because when your skin becomes dry, it will be prone to injuries. Like if any pressure is applied there, the skin will just rupture and you will injure yourself. So these sebaceous glands are actually very, very important. And for the sweat glands, these glands, they're just involved in the secretion of the sweat, as we all know. Yeah, so having talked about that, marks the end of the lecture that we had today, or the discussion session that we had for today. So now, one thing that I would like to show you is how some questions are asked under the same topic, basically just specifically the histology of the skin. These are just a few questions that we are going to post in the group. As you go through the notes, and as you have gone through some notes, they will help you to assess yourself if you really got the concept. So we have questions. Let me just get the questions and I'll show you. Yeah, and if you have a question, feel free to ask. We'll be happy to help you. So we have a lot of questions here, I will read for you a few. So the first question is, which layer begins? Like, we have a lot of questions here. So these questions, we are going to post them and they will help you to assess your conceptual understanding based on the same topic that you have had for today. Yeah, so let me read for you one question, then the rest of them you check them out. The first question that we are having here, saying which layer of the epidermis is responsible for continuous regeneration of keratinocytes? And we talked about this, that we said it was the stratum basal, or the basal layer, because that's where we're going to find continuous cell division. So it's more like in that layer the cells are too active such that they undergo continuous mitosis, forming new cells that are going to replace the dying cells. And also have another question which is saying the spiny appearance of keratinocyte is seen in which layer? It's said that they are seen in the spinosum, because in the spinosum layer you're going to find that when you view it under the microscope, these cells are going to appear like spine-like. Yeah. So these questions, trust me, you enjoy as you go through them. We'll post them in the group, and also have other structural questions where you use an essay writing format to answer them. Otherwise, if you have any questions, you are free to ask, and it will be better if you ask in the group so that to attend to you and others can also benefit from it. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate. Have a blessed evening.